sure you heard Rings of Power Season 2 has many issues that I have a problem with, and many issues that a lot of people who watch the show don't like. You know what I'm saying? Whether they book readers or not book readers. And I know some people do like it, but let me just tell you really how it should have went. Let me tell you what really happened with the fall of Eregion. Listen, in about the year 1600, after Morgoth had been defeated, who was basically like Satan, I told y'all that before. You know what I'm talking about? Sauron popped up as Annatar, the Lord of Gifts, and he said that he was sent by the Valar, and he went to Círdan, and he went to Gil-galad in hopes that he could trick them. But they kind of knew something was off. Something was iffy. They didn't trust it. It just didn't smell right. You know what I'm saying? It just didn't smell right. So they rejected him. So since he got rejected, he decided to go to Celebrimbor, who was actually a descendant of Fëanor, who created the jewels, the Silmarils, who the whole first, who caused everything that happened in the First Age. And in Celebrimbor's pride and his hopes to be greater than his grandfather, he ignored all the other stuff that Círdan and Gil-galad felt off by, because he wanted to be a master smith and create something more impressive. And that's why he helped create the rings. Now, he really thought Annatar was the Lord of Gifts, was helping him. But then he kind of started feeling like something just wasn't right. Something just wasn't quite right. So he created three rings on his own in secret. And these 3 rings he sent off to Gil-galad, Círdan, and Galadriel, the 3 wisest elves who were around. Now, Sauron had went and made his own master ring. See, that's why I complain about the show. Because the show tried to hype it up like, oh, we just need these rings for man. It's really important that you make these rings. That's not why Sauron made those rings. His rings were created to control the elves. And because the elves figured him out, Sauron basically went with a backup plan. I'm going to give them to the dwarves and the man. That's basically what happened. But anyway, let me get back to it. Sauron created this master ring, and when he put it on, the elves realized what was going on. Like, this nigga, you know what I'm saying? They took the rings off, and Sauron got mad. He was like, oh, hell
man,
no.
Look at, man,
oh,
hell no.
He immediately went to Eregion to figure out what done happened. And he demanded the rings, and he demanded to know where the rings were. Celebrimbor said, oh, no, dog, I ain't even got it on. I ain't got it on me. Get it from somebody else. So Sauron at this time, matter of fact, so Sauron was in his guise of Annatar, the Lord of Gifts, in his elven form. Many of the orcs really didn't even pay attention to Sauron. They wouldn't listen to the nigga. He was too pretty. He was a pretty boy. They didn't respect that. Even though he was the Lord of Darkness at that time, and he was really powerful, they weren't listening to him like that. But anyway, when he got his stuff together, he immediately sacked Eregion. You know what I'm saying? And Eregion raised their defenses. They had a lot of mighty warriors. They just didn't have enough. The force was too small. Matter of fact, Galadriel didn't participate in this fight at all. Galadriel was off in a whole nother region. That's why I'm confused about the show making her so important and making this. Now, I get it, she's very powerful, but she really didn't. But you know who did? Her husband, Celeborn. He was the one who had the defenses of Eregion. It was Galadriel's husband, Celeborn. You know what I'm talking about? Ain't that crazy that they took him out the show? And while this was going on, Gil-galad realized that they didn't have enough to stop Sauron and the people from the east, so he sent off letters to Númenor. See, the way the show did it, they had this whole little thing, Sauron might be back, and they showed up to this little village to fight like 30 orcs and a couple of men or whatever on horseback, and the Númenorians weren't supposed to come for like another... Those particular ones, Isildur and Don't get me complaining about that. That's supposed to be way off. But anyway, at this point in time, he sent off letters to Númenor for help because he knew they didn't have what they needed to defeat him. But anyway, Elrond showed up with a contingent of soldiers of elven warriors because Elrond was a warrior. You know what I'm talking about? And Elrond did what he could, but he still didn't have enough numbers. Luckily, the dwarfs came out of Khazad-dûm to help. This is another thing that the show got wrong. Only one Durin existed at a time. Because the whole theory or the myth behind Durins were, but they were all reincarnations of each other. So you could never have a Durin the younger and a Durin the older at the same time. It didn't work like that. But anyway, they came out to Khazad-dûm to help. And all they did was give a little time for Elrond to get away. Now, Elrond fled with his soldiers and some of the soldiers from Eregion, and they went and found this land, this hideout that wound up becoming Eregion. I mean, not Eregion, but becoming Rivendell in the future. It wasn't quite yet a kingdom now. It wasn't just beautiful, but it was a place of refuge, a place to hide for the time being. And the dwarves went back into Khazad-dûm with a couple of Lorien elves. You know what I'm talking about? They went back to hide. But at this point in time, Sauron done dropped his nuts on everybody. He done dropped his nuts on Eregion and Eregion. He running roughshod. He doing his thing. And he pissed off because he realized that Celebrimbor did not give up the other 3 rings. He gave up the... Now, he did tell on everybody else. He just didn't tell on Galadriel and Círdan and Gil-galad. But he told on everybody else. And Sauron got those rings. Celebrimbor kept it real to the end. He got tortured. Then he died, and then they used him as a banner. Rest in peace to Celebrimbor. But anyway, he was pissed. He wanted those rings, so his first mind was to go and get the ones from Gil-galad and Círdan. So he headed to Lindon and headed to the Grey Havens to accomplish this. The whole time, Gil-galad and them are waiting for the Númenorians to come as backup because they know they don't have enough people. And they just didn't quite come in time because Sauron already made it. Gil-galad had propped up his defenses. It wasn't like in the show where Gil-galad showed up to Eregion to the fight. He didn't do that. It was just Elrond and Elrond soldiers. Gil-galad stayed and was just beefing up his people and waiting on the Númenorians. Now Sauron came and started sacking the Grey Havens because he had already destroyed Eregion. He killing men, women, children, elves, destroying temples, forts, all type of stuff. Luckily, the Númenorians show up in time. They show up and they land in 2 different spots. So they land and they click up with Gil-galad and they rush in and they start whooping Sauron's behind. Sauron tried to do a rear guard movement and take him, but Númenor landed in 2 different spots. So the Númenorians came from behind and they crushed Sauron and ran him all the way back to Mordor. You know what I'm saying? With barely like a little contingent of orcs to kind of protect him. And they kept him in Mordor for a while. But that's how Eregion fell. That's how Celebrimbor fell. And that's how the elves have those 3 rings. But like I said, it wasn't about men. Like men and the dwarves, they got the rings because Sauron couldn't do nothing else because the elves realized what he was trying to do. It had nothing to do with men just have to have these rings. It wasn't like that. Now, the Witch King is a very dope character. And maybe I'll do a little story about the Witch King and some of the things he did later on. But yeah, man, the show just got a lot wrong. They didn't even have to do that. Like I said, with the Isildur and the Elendil and all that stuff, that's supposed to be like 2,000 years from what's going on now with Celebrimbor. You know what I'm talking about, Junior?